The housekeeper opened the door. Maybe I shouldn't have been. She found the boy dressed like an altar boy, but in different colors, wearing very strange clothes, and she said to him, "Hello, you. Why are you dressed like that? Are you heading to a procession?" The boy didn't answer, and it got worse when he realized how the parents were dressed, what they were preparing. He immediately knew it was something she shouldn't see, that she shouldn't be there. Good evening, community. Today there are 7 stories for you. Strange stories, paranormal, real, about cults, ghosts, shapeshifters, and spirits that remain even after the bodies are gone. We hope you enjoy them. And if you're having a hard time today, if you're struggling right now, don't doubt that this episode is for you. This is your family, your community. We're in this together. And now it begins. Stories of the night. Good afternoon. I'm writing to you from Tijuana. I'd like to share an experience that happened to me about 15 years ago. I've only told this to friends and family, but over the past few months I've watched your channel a lot, and I decided to write to you. I was 16 and in high school when it happened. That day I was with my friends Luis and Renee, walking along the train tracks in La Presa in Tijuana through that long tunnel that leads to a little stream. According to Renee, the place there was really nice and we wanted to check it out. We got there around 3 in the afternoon. It was a little cold, but nothing unusual. There was no fog or anything. It was a pretty normal afternoon, a bit gray, but normal. We stayed there for quite a while and lost track of time. We were comfortable and relaxed. Not even the police go down to that area. When we decided to head back, it was already around 8 at night. And as soon as we started walking back to the train tunnel, we noticed a really heavy fog was coming in. It came out of nowhere, thick, silent, and from that moment, everything felt strange. As we moved forward, we started to hear as if someone was coming behind us, whispers. Sometimes it sounded like someone was praying, sometimes like someone was laughing. Our Father who art in heaven, we sanctify the name. Your will, as I wish, as I wish. We kept walking, and when we entered the tunnel, we looked back. We wanted to see the fog that was coming behind us. It looked like a cloud touching the ground. You could see waves of fog that suddenly let you see farther, and then suddenly nothing. And between those waves in the fog, we saw something. Someone appeared to be rushing to catch up with us. She looked like a lady, like a grandmother, with her worn-out clothes almost torn, hanging off her. When we paid attention, we noticed something, and maybe it was because the fog was thick at that height, but the lady's feet couldn't be seen. And as she got closer without moving her body, it seemed like she was floating. As she got closer, we realized that she was the one who was praying and that at times she was laughing. She was coming straight toward us, very slowly but without stopping. And when she was about 2 meters away from us, it was like we got an electric shock. It was as if suddenly our legs responded and we started running. Even though we were running as fast as we could, in the tunnel we felt like she was right behind us. We could hear her close, but none of us dared to look back. Imagine doing it and realizing she was floating right behind us. We didn't hear any more laughter or prayers, nothing. We got out of the tunnel and kept running until our legs couldn't take it anymore, and we stopped when we reached the guardhouse of a factory. As soon as we crossed over to where the light was, we turned around and there was nothing behind us anymore. No laughter, no prayers, nothing. Luis's parents picked us up and took all of us to our homes. I got in the car, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it was still following us. I don't know, I felt like it was really close, like something I couldn't see, something I imagined was still floating there. And the thing is, when I close my eyes, community, even after all this time, that's the image that comes to my mind. That week that followed, I was even scared to go to school. I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to go anywhere. But the worst came after. The following week, I started dreaming about her. Very real. As if she were right in front of me. More real than any other dream I've ever had. And at night, I felt like someone was watching me from the darkness of my room, from a corner that's particularly darker than the rest of the room. It got to a point where I was terrified of the night. I couldn't sleep, and every day I felt more tired and drained. My aunt noticed something was wrong and took me to church. She asked the priest for a blessing and to pray for me. She asked for a blessing for my house and my family. It didn't happen overnight, but little by little I started to feel peace in my mind again, like there was nothing there anymore. He kept leaning on me. It was something I'll never forget, and I never went back to that place, never. And if you're ever near the dam, please, never go down to the train tunnel. Hi Uriel, I want to send you my little story. I really love your show. I'm from Guadalajara, Jalisco, and I've always had the sensitivity to see things that aren't in this plane. That's why I've always been very careful with these topics. What I'm about to tell you started this year, in July. With 3 friends, I went to the Colomos Forest. It was one of my friend's birthday, and we decided to go for a walk for a while. We arrived at the house by the ravines and sat down to talk, just a normal conversation between teenagers. I already felt a very strange vibe there, but I didn't say anything. Sometimes I feel that way, but then it just goes away on its own. My friend saw a doll near the path and wanted to go toward it. I followed him without knowing why, even though I was already tired and wanted to go back for our things. When we went up, the vibe felt even heavier. When we got to the spot where the doll was, we didn't see it anymore, but it had appeared somewhere else, closer to the ravine. My friend wanted to keep getting closer, even go down, but I pulled him back because I felt something wasn't right. I felt weak, dizzy, really awful inside. Somehow, I got him away from there. I don't remember what excuse I used. Then we went to eat and talk with his uncles and parents. His dad took us to a cave. People from Guadalajara know those caves are now closed because they were once used for witchcraft and other things. Even so, he managed to get us in and we crossed it. The vibe was horrible, really intense. You don't need to have any special sensitivity to feel something like that. I left with a backache that I only get when a place has bad energy. That night, when I took a shower, I realized I had scratches in places that are hard to reach, places where I couldn't, but I couldn't have gotten them while walking, even if I had gone through branches. Months went by and I started to feel very strange. I fell into a very strange illness. I stopped eating, I slept all day, and I felt dead. My mom took me to the doctor and I landed in the hospital. I was paler than usual. The official diagnosis was salmonellosis, but a doctor confided to my mom that he really wasn't sure what I had during one of those nights in the hospital. I saw a woman dressed in black walk past my room door several times when they left it open. I also started having very strange dreams. In one of them, I was at my grandmother Elvira's house, and that same woman grabbed me by the arm with her cold hands. She would say to me, "We have to go, I have to take you." She pulled me toward the exit, and I remember how my grandmother Elvira stopped me saying, "You can't take her, she's not leaving yet." And I would wake up with a fever. They discharged me because supposedly I was already better. I was eating and not sleeping as much anymore. My mom says I was on the verge of death, but I don't remember the illness. I don't remember being that sick. Last week we went back to Los Colomos. The same friends from that time wanted to go see the same cave, and I was embarrassed to say no. So I followed them cautiously, taking my precautions, but I couldn't go back in. I sat down to wait for them until I saw them coming back running. Out of curiosity, I stayed to see what happened in the cave in the darkness, behind my friends. I thought I saw the woman from the hospital who used to walk past my room and appeared in my dreams at my grandmother's house. Behind her, I saw another figure sitting, but I couldn't make it out when my friends ran past me. I tried to get up quickly, and as I leaned on the floor, when I looked down, I noticed a bracelet on the floor next to my feet. A thread bracelet that I had lost a long time ago. It was alone, dirty, but intact, and instinctively I picked it up, and as soon as I had it in my hand, a horrible fear overwhelmed me. I felt as if that woman was right behind me, and I ran. Of course, at first I wasn't sure if it was the same bracelet, but when I checked it carefully at home, there was no doubt. When I told my friend, he told me something similar, that when I was sick, he had seen me standing in his yard. But when he came out to see me, he wasn't alone anymore. He found a hair tie with a thread and a medal that I had lost months ago. Honestly, I don't know what to think. I had already had encounters with things before, but never one this intense until today. I see shadows and hear things. My mom says it's because I was on the verge of death, and sometimes I think I didn't completely survive. 'Cause since then I feel empty, like a part of me died. I'm encouraged to share this because I have no one else to tell, no one who would believe me, and also in case someone can help me with some advice. Maybe for others this story isn't that intense, but for me, since I've lived it, and I'm still living it, it really is. Thank you for letting me share it. Hi everyone, today is my last day of vacation and I've been listening to Relatos de la Noche every day. I've already finished the whole horror story basket collection. Some time ago I had listened to some of the stories shared here, and I always found them very interesting, but I hadn't had time to listen to them completely. Taking advantage of today's calm, I want to share something that happened to my family and we still remember. When I was about 6 years old, I started seeing a little girl. I never saw her directly, only out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes I could barely see the top of her head peeking out. Even so, there was one occasion that really marked me. I was in the kitchen, a kitchen that no longer exists today, helping to prepare the food. We had a large glass door, and outside there was a washing machine, one of those simple round ones. I was always fearful, and that day I was completely alone because my parents had gone out. When the glass door turned, I saw that the girl was hanging from the washing machine, peeking out to look at me as if she were playing. I remember perfectly the movement of her hair as she leaned over, and her smile was a smile impossible to forget. My grandma already knew that sometimes I saw that girl, and she had advised me that if something scared me, I should close my eyes tightly and try not to let my imagination run wild. And she told me that when I opened them, there would be nothing there, so that's what I did, and I opened my eyes, until my mom came back from shopping and the girl was gone. I saw her on other occasions, but that was the only time I was able to see her face. Other things happened too. For example, I had a doll that would say phrases when you pressed its tummy, and out of nowhere, it started going off by itself at night. When my parents and I were asleep, it was as if someone was pressing it or playing with it, and it happened so often that my parents ended up taking out the batteries. The years went by. I remember very well that when I was about 10, one afternoon I heard my mom shout, "Oh, silly, you scared me." And then she came into my room laughing. But when she saw me lying down, her expression changed. She asked me if I had just scared her, and I told her no, that I hadn't left the room. She got really scared because that same week she had told my dad that nothing ever scared her, that she could be alone, like it was nothing, with music and in the dark, no problem. But that afternoon, when she walked past a small high window in the bathroom we used to have, she saw the top of the girl's head and some little arms that lifted up to scare her. She thought it was me until she found me lying in my room. That's when my parents told me that when I was younger, my dad also saw the girl peeking through that same window where she scared my mom. They even told me that sometimes she would talk to my dad when he was alone at home. Once a neighbor came to knock on the door and clearly heard the voice of a little girl saying, "There's no one here." He thought it was me and even answered her, but my parents swore to him that I wasn't at home. The neighbor turned pale from fright. There were several more experiences, but these are the strongest ones, and, well, the last one happened when I was staying over at my aunt's house. My parents told me that that morning they saw the little girl's head peeking out the window again, and even the curtain was slightly lifted. My dad then spoke to her as if she were a real girl and told her that this wasn't her home, that she didn't belong to our family, and that she had to leave because she had already scared my mom and me, and that it was bad to frighten us. Maybe that worked because after that day she never appeared again. I don't know if it's related, but before I started seeing this girl, my parents took me to the former convent of Culhuacan. I was playing in front of them, and just as I turned a corner, I saw some kind of white cloth flying. I saw a little white cloth dragging along. I ran thinking it was a bride taking pictures, like sometimes happened at a church near my house. But when I turned the corner, there was no one there. Sometime later, already at home, I saw that white cloth again through the glass door, dragging itself, moving out of my sight as if someone was hiding. I hid. I got so scared that I started crying until my dad got home. I don't know if that's really related, but recently I saw a video about the former convent of Culhuacan, and when I read the comments, I saw that many people have had paranormal experiences there. That precisely made me reconnect with those memories, and it made me think that maybe somehow we brought the presence of the girl to our house from that place. I hope you like my story. I really enjoy listening to the stories that are shared here. I send all of you my best wishes and good vibes to everyone. Hello, Uriel. Good evening and a hug to the whole community. My name is Uriel, just like you. I've already sent you 2 or 3 stories. In fact, you published one of mine in which Historia's 25 was born. Has it been a while since then? I am currently a store manager at one of the largest chains in the country. Their meat? To give you some context, the store where I work is located in a relatively new shopping center built about 3 years ago. That shopping center also has a Guadalajara pharmacy, wholesale store, and liquor store. But before the shopping center existed, that land used to be an abandoned movie theater, completely in ruins. When I worked at a restaurant, I sometimes helped the delivery guy with orders, and one of the most regular customers was the security guard of that old movie theater. He always ordered something on weekends, but every time I went to deliver his order, I found him outside on the street. One day I asked him why he was never inside, and he told me it was because it scared him that he didn't like being there. Years later, by chance, I started working in that same plaza at the butcher shop. I started as a floor salesman, and over time they gave me the management position. From the very first day, I noticed unusual sounds. Doors that closed by themselves, water faucets that turned on, refrigerator doors that were found open. That kind of thing happened all the time. After I got the management position and spent 2.5 months alone, the most intense things started happening. It wasn't just noises anymore. You could hear meaningless words in the empty hallways, footsteps, whispers. The activity became clearer and more constant, and even some customers saw things or heard noises from inside. It was so intense that 2 customers gave me holy water to sprinkle around the store because they themselves witnessed what was happening there. They saw shadows moving in aisles where there was no one, and even once a customer saw a 20-liter water jug shoot out of the dispenser. Sometimes our cell manager asks us for photos of the store, of certain specific places on different dates. I took photos, and in 2 of them, I don't know, maybe it's my imagination, but I feel like you can see something. You'll see. If you think you should do it, I'll send you the photos so you can put them in the video and things keep happening. Now I already have a floor salesperson, and nobody likes to stay after closing, but I have to stay for the closing meeting and to do the administrative tasks. So that entity, which has already shown itself twice, and I coexist every day. My coworker has been locked alone in the machine room, also in the bathroom. Sometimes we arrive and find everything a mess, even though cleaning is done at the end and the beginning of the day. I've tried to communicate with her using white noise to find out what she wants, but she doesn't answer me. She only shows herself when she wants to, and it even seems like she enjoys playing pranks. I'm sending you the photos, so if you want, show them to the community. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe someone else sees the same thing I do. Good evening, Relatos de la Noche team and podcast listeners. My name is Demian, and I recently turned 18 today. I'll tell you what my family and I experienced a few years ago. I'll avoid mentioning the names of my relatives and the exact places where everything happened. I'll just say it was in Honduras. Let me clarify something first. My mother has said since she was a child that she can see things most people can't. She's super sensitive to the paranormal. She shares several experiences from her childhood. And sorry in advance if I make mistakes writing this, I'm new at it. You see, many years ago, when I was 8 or 9, my family, my dad, my mom, and I moved into a house, a bit big for the 3 of us. Right around that time, my aunt was asked to leave the house she was living in, and she had nowhere to go, so we agreed to let her move in with us. Along with my 2 cousins, who were also little like me, they were going to split the expenses: rent, water, electricity, and so on. From what little I remember, the house was pale pink, it was quite big, and the most impressive thing was the huge backyard full of guava, papaya, and other fruit trees. The owner had also planted banana trees, or plantains as some call them, basically forming almost a hallway because they were planted on both sides. My cousins and I used to play there almost all day. My aunt worked, and so did my dad. The only one who stayed with us was my mom. She would let us play as long as we cleaned up the mess when we were done. Another aunt, my mom's cousin, lived near the house, and her kids would also come play with us, or we would go to their house. Those were good times. I particularly remember one afternoon when we had been living there for 2 months. There were about 10 of us kids playing inside the house. My mom was painting one of her paintings, calm, not paying too much attention to us, when suddenly my older cousin came over scared and said, "Aunt, look at the chair." She was referring to a metal rocking chair that was mine. The chair was moving by itself. I know many might say it's just a rocking chair, but the strange thing was that there were no open windows or any draft. Also, according to my mom, at first it was barely moving, but when she started watching it, it began to rock forcefully, as if a child were there, sitting, playing. My mother, to keep the rest of us from getting scared, tried to distract us by telling us to go out to the yard. But another cousin screamed that the chair was moving by itself, and we all got scared right away. My mom calmed the commotion as best she could, sent my cousins home, and let us go out to the yard. Then she put the chair away somewhere we couldn't see it. After that, everything went back to normal for a few weeks. One early morning, while I was sleeping next to my parents, I woke up because I felt movement on the bed, like someone heavy had gotten on the side where I was sleeping. There was enough space because I was small. I vaguely remember the scene. My parents were sleeping deeply. I closed my eyes again, and then I felt a pair of large hands grab me by the feet, pulling me as if they wanted to take me off the bed. I opened my eyes, but no one was there. Obviously, I got really scared and started to cry. This woke up my mom, who hugged me and tried to calm me down. My dad woke up too, but he was annoyed, saying it was just my imagination and that my mom should stop watching horror movies. While I was there, he said that was what was affecting me and just went back to sleep angry. My mom put me in the middle of them so I would feel safer. Later, when I fell asleep, she herself says that she could feel someone else was in the room, and then she addressed whatever was there. "Let this be the last time you scare or touch my son. I don't want to see you in this house again. Get out." She says she did it because, when she was a child, her grandmother, my great-grandmother, taught her that when she saw ugly things, she should face them bravely and drive them away with authority, even insult them if necessary. According to my great-grandmother, that would scare away evil spirits, that you shouldn't show them fear. But since that night I stopped sleeping well, I started having horrible nightmares, and they appeared in all of them. I made a child not as the main character. He would just peek out from some corner, or he was simply standing somewhere. I ignored him, but he was always there. That boy was about 7 or 8 years old. He was pale, with straight black hair cut like a helmet. He was missing some teeth, and he wore a red shirt with horizontal white stripes. I would wake up startled, squeeze my eyes shut tightly, and pull my legs up into a fetal position because I was afraid that something would grab my feet again. My mother also started to suffer from sleep paralysis. She would open her eyes in the early morning and see a very tall male figure watching her from the darkness. He was a young man, or at least not very old, but she was never able to see his face completely. He was just there, standing without moving. As the weeks went by, that man kept getting closer and closer to the bed. Every night he was closer. Until one early morning, my mom opened her eyes and saw him with his face just inches from hers. He was hunched over because he was very tall. My mom couldn't move, and that man was staring at her with his eyes wide open. She says he had blood on his face and clothes, a split lip, and one of his eyes was dripping blood. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He was just there, staring at her for a long time, and then he disappeared, like nothing happened. This time, she did wake up my dad, who went with her to the kitchen so she could take a pill to help her sleep. My aunt also told stories. At night, already in bed, she would hear a deep laugh like a growl, something impossible to describe, but she insists it wasn't human. She would pray and pray until the laughter faded away. My cousin, the oldest daughter of that aunt, started saying she saw a boy who followed her all around the house and the yard, who seemed friendly, who invited her to play. My aunt always told her to ignore him, and she told my mom, who, upon hearing about it, said that it was already too much. She then decided to investigate the history of the house. Neighbors told her that before it was for rent, this place had been a bar, a brothel where dangerous people used to go, that there were fights, murders, and all kinds of horrible things there. Eventually, the place was shut down due to fines and lawsuits. Finally, they told her that the former owner of the place lived an hour away, and my mom talked to her. And then both my mom and my aunt, for some reason, started looking for help in churches and, well, community. I feel like this message is already getting too long, so I'll leave it here for now. Soon I'll share the other parts of my story with you, because I think what we experienced in that house was extensive. There was even an exorcism inside it, to try to calm all the energies that remained there. But anyway, for now, I wish you good night and be careful with the places you choose to live, because you never know when something might come to you that could change your life forever. Thank you for staying with us. Community, please leave us a comment with your thoughts about today's stories. We really enjoy reading them. And if you're in a good mood, a really good mood, give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, or whatever it is you do on the platform where you're listening to us so the algorithm treats us well. I like to give you this little break to catch your breath before the last stories, especially when a tough one is coming up. And that's the case here because we're going to talk about cults. And we're heading back to Querétaro again, so you can imagine. Remember that the book Relatos de la Noche is the best gift you can give this Christmas. The links are in the description. And now, let's go to the next story. Hello, Relatos de la Noche community. Uriel asked us, the people from Querétaro, that if we had stories related to cults, we should share them. And I have one that happened to my grandmother at the end of the 1970s. She started working in downtown Querétaro when she was very young. She came from a community called Secha de Bravo in the municipality of Huimilpan. There weren't many job opportunities there, so she had to leave. My grandmother couldn't read or write, but she was excellent at her work, so she quickly found a job. She worked for the wealthiest families in the city, including the Nido family, the Alcocer family, and the Ruiz family. She worked as a domestic worker for many years, starting when she was single after she got married, and even after she had children, she continued doing this work. Over time, she became someone trustworthy, and her employers would recommend her to their friends and family so they would hire her as well. Fortunately, she never lacked work. She was doing very well. But one day something happened that made her leave this job, something that scared her a lot. Her work area was near Plaza de Armas. Many neighbors knew her and greeted her, and even though she didn't work with them, they gave her clothes and toys for her children. One day, one of the many ladies who talked to her, whose name I will keep confidential, asked her to help with the housework at her home. My grandmother didn't have room for more work, but since the lady had been very kind to her, she felt obligated and accepted. She told her she could only do it on Thursdays, which was her day off. The lady agreed, but she earnestly asked her to finish all the housework before 5 in the afternoon, that she couldn't stay even a minute longer, that if she couldn't finish, it was better to leave it like that and come back another day. To conclude, my grandmother found the request curious, but she thought it was something unimportant. In the end, they were going to pay her very well, and even though the house was huge, she believed that time would be enough to finish the chores without any problems. On the first Thursday she went, they showed her the tasks she had to do: sweeping, mopping, dusting, making the beds, both the master bedroom and the 2 children's rooms. The only instruction the owner of the house gave was that there was a room at the back that was strictly forbidden to enter. No one was allowed to go in. My grandmother said that generally the lady had a very kind demeanor, but when she gave that order, her tone changed to a very dry one, and her face looked completely serious, expressionless. But my grandmother still didn't pay much attention to it. She knew that wealthy people are sometimes very particular. When she was already working there one day, the oldest child in the house asked her if she knew why she couldn't go into that room. My grandmother shook her head, and the boy, almost whispering so no one would hear him, told her it was because his parents received some special visitors there, and that he wasn't allowed in either because he was still too little, but he didn't really want to go in either because that room always smelled bad. She thought the boy was just playing with her, so she didn't pay attention to him. The weeks went by and everything was normal at her usual job. Likewise, she went every Thursday to clean those other people's house. She left on time before 5 and had never noticed anything strange. She was even starting to grow fond of the family. But then that Thursday came when everything went wrong. In the morning, she was late starting her work. She didn't wake up on time. The bus that took her to the center didn't come, so she had to walk, which is why she arrived quite late. The lady of the house kept pressuring him to finish before the agreed time, which he managed to do despite the setbacks. After such a hectic day, my grandma was on her way home, and while she was already at the bus stop, she remembered that she had forgotten her purse at her employer's house. She thought about walking home and coming back the next day, but she needed the money she had in there to buy dinner. She thought she would go quickly and there wouldn't be a problem. Just this once, nothing would happen. She hurried back to the house, and when she arrived, it was completely silent. She discreetly rang the bell that served as a doorbell, feeling bad about causing any trouble, but no one answered. It should be noted that the house had a service entrance on the side, which led directly to the kitchen, and it was also the exit from the property's parking area. That's why it was easy for her to go in, to slip in quickly, hoping no one would see her. After all, grabbing her wallet would only take a few seconds. That's what she thought. She sneaked in, found her wallet, and just as she was about to leave the kitchen, she heard noises behind her. Frightened, she turned around and realized it was one of the family's children. She stared at him and let out a nervous curse because the boy was wearing a costume. My grandma asked him, "Dee, what are you wearing now? Are you heading to the silent procession?" She was referring to the clothing worn for that religious celebration in Querétaro every Good Friday, which consists of a tunic. That one, yes. Even though he had always been very cheerful with her, the boy didn't react at all to what my grandma said. She then said goodbye, told him she had only come back for her purse, but that she was leaving now. Right as she was leaving through the service door, while crossing the parking lot, she turned and noticed that the family was getting into their car. They were all dressed just like the boy, with tunics that only differed in color, the children in white, the adults in black. They were holding the hoods in their hands as if they were going to put them on later. When the gentlemen noticed my grandmother's presence, they looked at each other completely bewildered, as if they couldn't believe she was there. And the lady with a very angry shout said to her, "I told you not to be here after 5. Then the husband ran desperately toward my grandmother, as if to try to pull her away. Fortunately, she was very close to the exit and managed to get out before being caught. She thought the man would try to follow her out to the street, but he didn't. He stayed inside his property. My grandma, scared, ran toward the bus stop, which was on Zaragoza Avenue, but something in her instincts told her that maybe they would look for her, that it would be best to take streets other than her usual route. She lived in the Hercules neighborhood, so she walked toward Los Arcos, and from there took the bus that dropped her off at her house. On the way, she kept wondering why her employers got so angry that she saw them dressed up. If it was something related to the church, then there was no reason to hide it. She couldn't understand it, so she waited for my grandpa to arrive so she could tell him. He was a judicial police officer. He listened carefully to her whole story, and when she finished, he said, "Don't get involved in trouble. Those people are dangerous. They have a lot of money and a lot of power. It's known that they do strange things, that even people from the government are involved with them. Wherever they go, not even God enters. They make pacts, sacrifices with who knows who so that their businesses go well. Why do you think they're getting richer and richer? It's better to keep those people far away. It's well known that they bring girls to the mountains and their families never see them again. And we, as police officers, if we know or find out about something, we have to keep quiet and do nothing because we run the risk not of being fired, but of being killed. So if you go around talking about what you saw, you're going to put everyone at risk. You'd be better off selling tamales or something else, but I don't want to see you over there getting into those houses." My grandma was scared for a long time, but luckily for her, back then it wasn't common to ask for documents to hire domestic help. Everything was by recommendation. My grandma hadn't given any details, just her first name. They didn't know where she lived or what her husband's name was or what he did for a living. So she thought they would never find her, even if they tried. Or did she just want to believe that so she could live in peace? She told me that story herself after many years had passed. She always said that the ladies of Santiago and the Virgin of the Immaculate Conception had saved her that day, because she didn't know what would have happened to her if they had caught her that time and hadn't let her go. Hi Uriel, I'm Enrique and have been your fan for 2 years. I want to share with you one of several stories that have happened to me, just like my family. We are originally from the state of Tlaxcala, from a town called Tlatelolco. This story is about my mom, and I should emphasize that even though she is very skeptical about these kinds of things, she told it to me, although she feels there must be some explanation for what happened. A while ago, my mom and her sister, my aunt, used to go swimming at the sports center in the state of Tlaxcala to get to their classes. Their public transportation trip took an hour and a half. They usually went at 6 in the evening and finished at 7. 1 hour of practice, and they did it 3 times a week. One time, they finished a bit later and missed the bus, so they had to wait about 20 minutes for the next one. Another time, he dropped them off at the entrance of the town, on a street that was still dirt and then turned into a sidewalk. They took that path and started walking, talking about practice and school. After crossing the railroad tracks, there's a small church, some little shops, a mill, and as always, they greeted the people who were there. "Good evening? Good evening, girls," replied some men who were drinking. They kept walking. They still had about 20 minutes left to get home, passing through lots of fields and very few houses around. In one of those houses lived a man they called Quarabia. He was my grandfather's close friend, and he was known for never working at anything, but he always had money and animals, which he sold. Sometimes he would show up injured, and the people in the village said he was a Nahual, that they would do it when they caught him stealing animals in the form of a beast. While my mom and my aunt were dancing, the 3 men they had greeted earlier started to follow them. They walked faster, and so did the men. They started to run, and my mom told my aunt that they should split up, thinking that at least one of them would be safe that way. But at that moment, just as they were passing in front of Señor's house, a dog came out from the cornfield. But it wasn't an ordinary dog. It was even bigger than a Great Dane. It was black, with a furious, fierce look, baring its teeth. It stood between my mom and my aunt as if protecting them, showing its teeth to the 3 men who were coming behind. The men stopped dead in their tracks, and without saying a word, they ran off in the opposite direction. The animal, without looking at them, started walking beside them. My mom says she had never seen it before. It didn't seem to have an owner, but it looked well fed. When they reached their street, the animal left them and disappeared into the darkness. Shortly after, during the town fair, Mr. Quarabia approached my grandpa and said, "Compadre, don't let the girls walk around so late at night. I won't always be there to protect them." My grandpa was left speechless, frozen, thinking, how did this man know what happened to them? And that's when my family confirmed that the man was the Nahual. And how could you not believe it if he's still alive? Believe me, Uriel, this happened 26 years ago, and the man still looks young and strong. He's very dark-skinned with gray hair and blue eyes, almost turquoise. He's thin with a mustache, and when he looks at you, you feel a heavy gaze like he's looking right through you. There are still many stories told about him in the village. He has a family, yes, but apparently none of his children do the same thing as the man. I send you my regards, Uriel, and I hope you let me be part of this community. Have a very good night.